All right. Namaste, everyone. Thank you for joining in this second class of the Vedic Astrology Foundation's beginners course. So in the first class, we had a brief introduction to what Vedic astrology is. What are the parameters required to be a Vedic astrologer, and certain other similar things. So today we will actually have a look at certain astronomical concepts. Okay, so for some, this class might seem a repeat of whatever geography was learned in the in the sixth standard or maybe in the fifth standard. But astronomy is a very important component of astrology. Okay, so an astrologer must be very, very clear. The astrologer must be very, very clear about certain astronomical concepts. And when we speak about astronomical concepts, one thing must be understood that astronomical concepts will always override astrological concepts. So astronomy has a lot of power, rather, in Vedic astrology. Okay, most astrologers will not tell you that, right? Just to drive home the point that an astronomical concept will always override an astrological concept. For example, if a planet is retrograde, you may perform a lot of remedies for planets that are retrograde. Okay, you may perform a lot of other upayas, you may perform a lot of other upayas and other pujas for planets that are retrograde or maybe that are combust. But those planets will give results only according to their own planetary status, according to their own planetary dignity. That means there are hardly any remedies for retrograde planets, except the mental ones, of course, and there are hardly any remedies for combust planets. Okay, so anyways, just as I had mentioned in the last class, before beginning this class, we'll just begin with the Shanti mantra that is there in the Kathopanishad. Okay, just let me silence my phone. Yeah, so we'll begin with the Shanti mantra. So request all of you to to say the Shanti mantra along with me, or in your mind, or loudly as it is suitable for you. Okay. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunakatu Saha Vidyankara Vavahai Tejasvinadavhitamastu Ma Vidvishabhai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay. All right. So let's begin the class. Okay, so this is about, as I said, this class is about some elementary concepts of astronomy that are very essential to the to the practice of Vedic astrology. And I'll just begin the class with a quotation of from the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so this quotation is from chapter number 8, verse number 17. Okay, I'll not give the Sanskrit sloka. You can look up the Sanskrit sloka because Sanskrit may not be the first language for most of you. So what it says is that those who know of the day of Brahma as of a duration of 1,000 ages, and the night too of 1,000 ages, they verily know the essence of day and night. So what Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna here is that you must be familiar with the astronomical concepts that have been in use by by the Indian astronomers, by the Indian mathematicians, much before the discovery of fancy telescopes and fancy gadgets to measure the distance between the earth and the sky. Okay, and Vedic astrology is based on a very sound understanding of astronomy, right? So in the ancient times, a knowledge of astronomy was considered very essential for an astrologer. Okay, and that knowledge of astronomy included phenomena such as the rotation and revolution of the earth, right, the formation of seasons, the occurrence of eclipses. Eclipses are still very important in today's fast food astrology, if I would like to put it there. People, every time an eclipse approaches, people will run helter-skelter to different Facebook groups, to different astrologers to ask for remedies and things like that. Okay, then there is the concept of solar and lunar months, right, the equinoxes. Okay, So all these things, they must be well known for anyone, or they must be well known to anyone who is who is involved in the study of Vedic astrology. Okay, and without if I just as I mentioned the point, it was very surprising that without the present day sophisticated instruments and telescopes, Indian mathematicians and astronomers, they were actually able to decipher fine variations in the disposition of heavenly bodies. Okay, so that was quite a marvelous feat, which they achieved only through their only through their tapasya, only through their sadhana. Okay, now we come to a very important concept of Vedic astrology, which considers the earth as the center of the universe. Okay, and why is that? Because the Parashara, when he was writing down those principles in the Brihat Parashara Hora Shastra. And for those who don't know, Brihat Parashara Hora Shastra is actually an interaction between Parashara and his disciple Maitreya. Okay, so Parashara was very much aware that nothing in the universe is stationary. Okay, so it was it was irrelevant to attempt to pick up a fixed point in the sky, right? Parashara knew that it was very irrelevant for him or for anyone else for that matter to pick up a fixed point in the sky and then consider the movements of of the earth, of the sun, or of other heavenly bodies in relation to such a point. Okay, so what he did was that it was something more simple, right? Parashara did something more simple. He imagined himself as a central point with the rest of the universe in constant motion around himself. So this was a this was a breakthrough by him, right? So what happened was that he considered the position and movement of all heavenly bodies in relation to the earth itself, because that is the residence of everyone. Okay, so if you are considering, in Vedic astrology, we are the we are the central point of reference. Okay, so that that practice was picked up, right? That practice was picked up, and if you study the ancient branches of Indian astronomy, all of the all of these branches, they consider the earth as the center. Okay, and all other heavenly bodies are considered moving around the earth in one manner or the other. Okay, so this approach of Indian astronomy is geocentric. Okay, but then the Western philosophers, the Western scientists, they later started considering sun as the center. That approach is of course known as the heliocentric, which we have all learned in school. Okay, but then it does not mean that because in astrology we have a geocentric approach, it does not mean that we do not consider the heliocentric approach at all. Okay, the Indian astrologers, they they do consider the sun to be the center of the solar system. But apart from that, what the Indian Vedic astrology also considers is that the sun, the solar system, as well as the stars are all moving, and this is a fact of science, isn't it? This is a fact of science. This is obviously a important fact of science, right? Because nothing is static. Everything is moving. Okay, everything is moving. So for the for the Indian astronomer, okay, who considered the geocentric system, the point of relative fixity at the center of heavenly bodies in the galaxy was the pole star, which is also known as the Dhruvatara. Okay, and the point being, because the Indian astronomical system, it considers the sun, the solar system, and all the stars as moving bodies. Okay, so it is some Western astrologers, they say that it is the Vedic astrology is ignorant of earthly movements. Okay, Vedic astrology is ignorant of science. Vedic astrology goes against science by considering the geocentric system, but it is not so. Okay, it is not so. So let us have a brief idea about the zodiac. Okay, so the zodiac is like the it's like the playground of astrology. Okay, I'll come to the divisions of the zodiac in a bit while. Okay, so now I want all of you to to exercise something that we were gifted with. Okay, I want you to exercise your imagination. All right, I want all of you to exercise your imagination, because without imagination, you'll not be able to study astrology, as you will see in the in the predictive part of it. Okay, so what I want all of you to do is that I want you to imagine a belt or a path in the sky. Okay, some 18 degrees of arc, which is running around the earth in a east-west direction. Okay, so the groups of stars, okay, and mind you, the stars will appear fixed. Okay, the stars will appear fixed, but at the end of the day, they are all moving. They are all running around the earth in a east-west direction. Okay, so I'll share the slides with you, of course, but I just want you to imagine in the way the ancient ones used to do it, because if you have a fertile imagination, it becomes very easy to exercise your intuition as a Vedic astrologer. Okay, so now imagine groups of stars. The appearance is fixed. They imagine them to be studded along this imaginary belt. Okay, so 27 and in some cases 28 groups of stars are recognized in Vedic astrology, and because because there is a lack of apparent motion, okay, so they are known as nakshatras, right? And this imaginary belt with the nakshatras studded on it is known as the zodiac, right? So this zodiac, it actually forms the reference point for fixing up the position of any planet or the position of any star in the sky. Okay, and because it encircles the earth, it is comprised of 360 degrees. Okay, so you divide 360 by 27, so you will have you will be left with 13 degrees 20 minutes. Okay, so these 27 nakshatras, because they are evenly placed on it on this belt, each will have a span of 13 degrees 20 minutes. Okay, and the various nakshatras they are numbered from 1 to 27. There is another system that considers 28 nakshatras. We'll come to the details but for the moment, if this is new to you, or since we are starting from scratch, consider that we are looking at the 27 nakshatra scheme. Okay, now in contrast to the fixed nakshatras, there are certain moving bodies which are known as the grahas. Okay, this word graha is actually derived from the word grahan. Okay, because grahan means to eclipse, and a graha is something which eclipses your your imagination, your your decision making ability. Okay, so these grahas, they will move along the zodiac from west to east, right? And as I said, graha is actually derived from the word grahan because the eclipse, right? And that name graha is also derived from the fact that while moving against the background of the nakshatras, they appear to get hold of one nakshatra after the other. Okay, so graha in Sanskrit, it means to catch hold of. Okay, to catch hold of. So these grahas, while moving against the background of the nakshatras, they appear to get hold of one nakshatra after the other. Okay, so Vedic astrology recognizes 9 grahas, right? You can memorize them in the weekday order: the Sun, the Moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, Saturn, Rahu, and Ketu. And since all of you are beginners, I'm assuming most of you, of course, would be familiar with Vedic astrology, but since you are, most of you would also be beginners, so it would be really appreciated if you start calling the grahas by your Sanskrit names. Okay, so instead of calling it the Sun, try to call it Surya. Instead of calling it Mars, try to call it Mangal or Mangala. Instead of calling it Saturn, try to call it Shani. Okay, so these are 9 grahas that are recognized in Vedic astrology. Out of these, we know that the Sun is a star, the Moon is a satellite of the Earth, and Rahu and Ketu are are mathematical points on the zodiac. Okay, while the remaining ones, of course, are planets. Now, when we speak about Rahu and Ketu, they are related to the Moon. Okay, so Rahu is known as the is known as the north node of the Moon, and Ketu is known as the south node of the Moon. Okay, and to be very precise, all the grahas will have nodes. Okay, all the 9 grahas will have nodes, but in Vedic astrology we are only considering the nodes of the Moon, which are Rahu and Ketu. Okay, and what we are assuming that these planets, they appear to revolve around the Earth while staying within the limits of the zodiac. Okay, and once they try to cross the limit, they start becoming retrograde. We'll discuss the phenomenon of retrogradation as well in a while. Okay, so I'll just start my sharing of the screen. Maybe that will help you out to imagine that. Nakshatras rotate from east to west and planets to west to east. No, the thing is that this is a purely astronomical phenomenon. I'm saying. Okay, there is no explanation for this. I'm just saying whatever happens in an astronomical manner. Okay, I'll just share the screen. Maybe that will make it more clear. Okay. All right. So the zodiac is a band which is 18 degrees. Each nakshatra has how many degrees? It will be 13 degrees, 20 minutes. Okay. So the zodiac is a band of 18. It's a band 18 degrees wide and is obliquely placed to the equator. It is divided into 12 equal parts called rashis and 27 equal parts called nakshatras. So the ecliptic of the Earth, it passes through the center of this band. Okay, as you can see here. All right. Now, this apparent path of the sun along the zodiac is known as the ecliptic. Okay, the ecliptic, it passes through the center of the zodiac, and it is inclined at an angle of 23 degrees 28 minutes precisely to the plane of the equator. Okay, and some people may ask, why are we not considering the other planets like Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto? Because they are not mentioned anywhere in the texts of Vedic astrology. Okay, so nowadays it has become a fashion to to read charts on the positions of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, but we don't recommend that. Rather, okay, we don't recommend that because these 9 systems are enough. Okay, and the other reason why Vedic astrology does not recommend reading Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, because let's request everyone. Yeah. Okay, so the other reason why Vedic astrology does not consider Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto is because these grahas, they don't, they don't influence individual karmas. They are more, they are more based on collective karma. And in Vedic astrology, we are more concerned with individual karmas, the apparent karma of an individual. Okay. So next we come to the rashis, right? So as I said, like the zodiac is divided into 12 equal parts. Okay, each part or each each of the 12 parts has an extension of 30 degrees of the arc, right? And such a division is called a sign or a rashi. Okay, and each rashi will contain 2 1/4 nakshatras. Okay, each rashi will comprise of 2 1/4 nakshatras, right? So a particular group of stars in the zodiac is considered as the starting point of the zodiac, and from this point the 27 nakshatras or the 12 signs they begin, right? And any planet located anywhere along the zodiac can be located in a can be considered to be located in a particular sign, depending which 12th division of the zodiac it is in. Okay, it may also be considered as being located in a particular nakshatra, depending upon which 27th division of the zodiac it is in. So this is based on the snapshot of the sky at the time of birth. Okay, that is the reason we place a lot of importance on birth time. Okay, so generally what happens is your birth time should be very, very accurate. Okay, it should be very, very accurate, because if the birth time is not accurate, then the entire picture changes. Okay, it'll not change in the Rashi chart or in the Lagna chart, but when you go to the higher divisional charts, like like the Navamsha or the the Sastyamsha, then these things will change. Yes, I'll take your doubts towards the end of the discussion. Okay. So the planets from the Sun to Saturn, they have been allotted the ownership of these signs. Okay. And while the Sun and the Moon, they own 1 sign each, the remaining planets, they own 2 signs. Okay. Rahu and Ketu, they are not given the ownership of any signs, but some traditions say that they have a partial ownership of 2 signs, as I will discuss as I'll come to it. Okay, so just let's look at the next slide. Okay, so the sign of Mesha, it is known as Aries. You should be familiar with the Sanskrit names, with the symbols, right? So you must be very, very familiar with these names and these symbols, because they hold a lot of potent power in arousing the knowledge inside you. Okay, so Mesha is known as Aries. It is owned by Mars, Vrisha or Vrishabha is known as Taurus. It is owned by Venus. Mithuna is Gemini. It is owned by Mercury. Karka is Cancer. It is owned by Moon. Simha is Leo. It is owned by the Sun. Kanya is Virgo. It is owned by Mercury. Tula is Libra. It is owned by Venus. Vrishchik is Scorpio. It is owned by Mars. Okay. Dhanu is Sagittarius. It is owned by Jupiter. Makara or Capricorn is owned by Saturn. Kumbha or Aquarius is owned by Saturn, and then Mean or Pisces is owned by Jupiter. Okay, so there are some traditions that will say that Rahu and Ketu have the co-ownership of Aquarius and Scorpio respectively, right? So that is for a later discussion. Okay, but purely on what the BPHS says, these are the signs and these are the sign lords. Okay, the degree will always be 30. Okay, all the signs will have a spanning of 30 degrees each. Okay, so now the nakshatras, the 27 nakshatras, right? They will also extend along the zodiac from 0 to 360 degrees, and they will also be owned by the planets. Okay, so, but unlike the signs where Rahu and Ketu, they do not have a direct ownership. In case of nakshatras, Rahu and Ketu have been given the ownership. Okay, and each nakshatra is further divided into 4 parts. They are known as pada. Pada means feet or charan, right? They are known as pada or charan. So 27 nakshatras, and each nakshatra divided into 4 parts. So 27 into 4, you will be left with the number 108. Okay. So this is the reason why, why your chanting of mantras and why your rituals, why the mantras that are done during rituals, the 108 is a standard number of chanting, because you want the mantra to reach each pada of the nakshatra. Okay, you want, and each pada of the nakshatra is basically the field of the mind. Okay, it is the mind field, the field of your of your mental state. And some mythologies will also consider nakshatras as the wives of the moon. Okay, so there are 27, there are 108 nakshatra padas in the 27 nakshatras. Okay, and each nakshatra quarter, it will measure 3 degree 20 minutes. Okay, that means each pada of the nakshatra will be of 3 degree 20 minutes. Okay, so this is the relationship of the nakshatras. So see, in Mesha, right, in Mesha, Ashwini has all the 4 padas. Ashwini is owned by Ketu. Then Bharani has all the 4 padas, but Bharani is owned by Venus. And Kritika has only 1 pada. Kritika, of course, is owned by the Sun. The other 3 padas of Kritika, they will fall in Vrishabha or Taurus. Then Rohini has all the 4 padas. This is owned by the Moon. Mrigashira has only 2 padas in Vrishabha, which is owned by Mars. In Mithuna, Mrigashira has 2 padas. It is owned by Mars. Ardra has, there are 4 padas of Ardra. Ardra has the rulership of Rahu. Punarvasu, there are 3 padas of Punarvasu in Mithuna. It is owned by Jupiter. So Karka in Cancer, Punarvasu has 1 pada, that is owned by Jupiter. Pushya has 4 padas, that is owned by Saturn. Ashlesha is owned by Mercury, and we can look at the other signs as well. Okay. So your job today is just to memorize the 12 signs, their lords, and memorize the 27 nakshatras and their planetary lords. So it will be really, really helpful in the coming classes. Okay. Now, as I said, some systems consider the 28 nakshatra scheme as well. Okay. So what happens is a segment of the zodiac which falls in Makara Rashi, precisely between 6 degrees and 10 degrees in the sign of Capricorn. It involves the last pada of Uttarashadha nakshatra and the beginning of the first pada of Shravan nakshatra. Okay, it's something around here. It's something around here. So towards the last pada of Uttarashadha nakshatra and towards the beginning of Shravana nakshatra, there is another nakshatra which is located, and that nakshatra is known as the Abhijit nakshatra. Okay, so if you consider the Abhijit nakshatra, which is actually located towards the end of Uttarashadha and the beginning of Shravana, you will get the nakshatra scheme of 28 nakshatras. Okay, so in such a situation, Abhijit, as I said, gets considered as the 28th nakshatra. Okay, and I mean that becomes a part of the 28 nakshatra, and the subsequent 6 nakshatras, they will change. They will they will change their numbers. Okay, so Shravana is considered to be the 22nd nakshatra. So after Uttarashada, there will be the Abhijit nakshatra. Then Shravana, so Abhijit becomes the 22nd nakshatra. Shravana will become the 23rd nakshatra, and the last nakshatra of Revati will become the 28th nakshatra. Okay, so this is Abhijit nakshatra under the 20th scheme of nakshatras. Now you may ask, what is the difference between the use of the 27th scheme, 27 nakshatra scheme, or and the 28 nakshatra scheme? The difference is that for all materialistic purposes, that means for 90% of chart analysis, you will actually use the 27 nakshatra scheme. But suppose someone comes to you for understanding the spiritual quotient in the chart. Okay, the people, the saints like Ramana Maharishi, or maybe Nisargadatta Maharaja, okay, maybe maybe Ramakrishna Paramhansa. For them, while reading their charts, you will start considering the 28 nakshatra scheme. So we'll consider those examples as we move along. Okay, so just in a nutshell, 27 scheme of nakshatras, it is considered for materialistic purposes. 28 scheme of nakshatras, it is considered for spiritual purposes. Okay, all right.
Deepanshu, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'll take the questions towards the last. Let me complete the and then I'll.
Okay, about the slide you had up.
About this one.
Yeah, just so like for example, Tula at the top. So then Chitra is Chitra, Swati, and Vishaka are the 3 nakshatras there. So to the right, what is that? There's like a 6 and then a $sign and then a 6.
That is seconds. That is seconds.
So could you, so next to, okay, let's.
This is minutes. This is degrees. This is seconds.
So it's 13 degrees. So what you're saying is up until 13 degrees 20, Bharani is 26:40. Okay, so it's just, okay, the order was confusing.
Yeah, the order was confusing. The order is confusing actually, yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Let's speak a bit about the geocentric astronomical framework. Okay, so as I said, Vedic astrology or Indian astronomy, it considers it has the geocentric astronomical framework. Okay, so while understanding this astronomical framework, we also have to understand certain facts about the Earth. Okay, the apparent movement of the Earth and the movement of the planets around the Earth. Okay, so these are points which you must keep in mind considering the geocentric frame of reference. Okay, so number one, the geocentric framework considers the Earth as a sphere. Okay, so the Earth is spherical and it rotates from west to east around its axis, right? And what is the axis? We know that we have studied this in high school, right? The axis is an imaginary line which passes through the center of the Earth. It connects the 2 poles, the North Pole and the South Pole. Okay, and another imaginary line running across the largest circumference of the Earth, equidistant from the poles and running in an east-west direction, is the equator, right? And the terrestrial equator is considered as a 0 degree of latitude, right? And parallels drawn to the equator, either north or south of it, they will indicate the north or south latitudes from 0 degree at the equator to 90 degrees at either pole. So this is this is standard 5 geography, right? So we can also draw imaginary lines on the surface of the Earth connecting the North Pole to the South Pole. Okay, and these lines encompassing the circumference of the Earth, they correspond to the 360 degrees of longitude, right? And they are also known as terrestrial meridians. Okay, and Indian astronomy considers the terrestrial meridian passing through the Ujjain as the 0 degree longitude. That is the reason why the Mahakaleshwar Jyotirlinga at Ujjain is considered to be the sacred of all the Jyotirlingas. Okay. At present, of course, we know that the meridian passing through Greenwich in England is regarded as the corresponding 0 degree of longitude. But for us Vedic astrologers, it is always the terrestrial meridian that passes through Ujjain, which we will consider as the 0 degree longitude. Okay. So the longitudes, they will be marked from 0 degrees to 180 degrees east or west, depending upon whether a place falls to the east or to the west of Greenwich, right? So the latitude and longitude of a place are the coordinates, okay, which help to locate the place accurately on the surface of the earth. The same principle is used by Google Maps and other satellite images, okay. And the 360 degrees of terrestrial longitude, they represent a time span of 24 hours. Okay, so 1 hour corresponds to 15 degrees, and 1 degree of terrestrial longitude, it represents 4 minutes of time. I'll come to the Vedic divisions of time in a bit. Okay. So now, looking at this diagram, you can consider one great circle and several smaller circles, right? So a great circle is any circle the plane of which passes through the center of a sphere, and equator is the great circle on the earth, which is of course equidistant from the north and the south poles. Okay, and any circle the plane of which does not pass through the center of a sphere is called a small circle. So as the equator corresponds to 0 degree latitude, all parallels to it are small circles, which represent the north or south latitudes. Okay. Now the space around the earth, this is something we have to understand. Okay, the space around the earth, it extends to an infinite extent. Okay, and for all Vedic astrologers, right, those who are studying Vedic astrology, the extension of space up to the zodiac is of primary importance. Okay, and the imaginary projection of the earth in all directions up to infinity is known as the celestial sphere. Okay, this concept will be more familiar to people who are also dealing with Western astrology. Okay, so we can project the earth in all directions. We can project the earth going in all directions rather. So that projection or that imaginary projection is known as the celestial sphere, and an extension of the plane of terrestrial equator into space is called the celestial equator. Okay, and any great circle that joins the celestial north and south poles is known as what? It is known as a meridian, right? And the meridian of a place, it will correspond to the terrestrial longitude, right? And we of course know that the meridian passing through Greenwich, it corresponds to the 0 degree of longitude, and it is termed as the principal meridian, or in some books it is also mentioned as standard meridian, right? And the angular distance between the principal meridian and the meridian of any given place, okay, that is known as the longitude of a place. So this is geography that we have studied in high school. Now this is something that must be important, that is important actually in reference to a birth chart, right? So what happens is that the sun, under this geocentric system, it will cross the meridian of a place at midday. Okay, and what is the ecliptic? We understand that the apparent path of the sun around the earth is the ecliptic, right? So the intersection of the ecliptic with the meridian of a place is termed as the midheaven. Okay, it is termed as the midheaven, and from the frame of reference of the birth chart, it actually corresponds, that midheaven part, it actually corresponds to the cusp, or to the to the intersection point of the 10th house of the horoscope. Okay, the starting point of the 10th house of the horoscope. Okay, so what happens is the meridian of a place, it passes around the earth through the North Pole, right? It passes around, the meridian of a place passes around the earth through the North Pole. Then it passes through the midheaven, the 10th house of the horoscope. It is also known as the zenith. Then it passes, through the South Pole. Then it crosses a point which we will call as the nadir. Okay, the opposite point to the midheaven is known as the nadir. So you just look at the 10th house. The opposite house is the 4th house. So midheaven is the 10th house, or it is also known as zenith. The opposite house to the place opposite to the midheaven, which is of course the 4th house, which will correspond to the 4th house, it is known as the nadir. Okay, and then that line or that meridian, it passes back to the North Pole. Okay, so this is something that might go above your, it might go over your head. But what I would request is that once the recordings are available, maybe you can just take this diagram and study of whatever I'm trying to explain here. Okay, so then there is,
can you spell that word, Nadir?
It's Nadir, nadir. NADIR. Okay. So then we have something which is known as we know that in geography we have studied inclination and declination. Okay. There is another term which is known as the right ascension and the left ascension. Okay. So just as the parallels of latitude and the meridians of longitude, they help to locate a place on the surface of the terrestrial sphere. So their extensions in the form of parallels of declination and the meridians of right ascension, they help to locate heavenly bodies on the celestial sphere. Okay. So what is declination? Declination of a planet is the angle which is subtended by the planet and the celestial equator at the Earth. Okay. So the declination of a planet will correspond exactly with the terrestrial latitude. Okay, it will correspond exactly with the terrestrial latitude. And the planet at the terrestrial equator is said to possess 0-degree declination. Okay. Right ascension, as I mentioned, right ascension of a planet is its angular distance, which is measured eastwards along the celestial equator from the vernal equinox to the point where a perpendicular drawn through the given planet will fall on the celestial equator. Okay, so don't have to worry if you don't understand much of it, right? I'm not saying you'll understand all of it, all of that which I'm speaking. Okay, this is just for your information, because if you want to, if you want to study Vedic astrology in details, you need to have a you need to have a sound idea of astronomy, because that will really help you in your predictions later on, as you'll see. Okay, so this equator and ecliptic, it is responsible for the formation of seasons. Okay, and how seasons are formed? Again, this is standard 5 geography. We know that the Earth, it will rotate on its own axis in 24 hours. You can look up the diagram in in any website. Okay, you can look up the diagram. It's there. It is obviously there. And there is no website, Sogataba, there is no website as such. Okay. So the equator and ecliptic, we know it is there for the formation of seasons. Okay, so we know that the Earth, it will rotate around its axis in 24 hours, and along with its rotation, it'll also have revolutionary motion around the sun in 1 year. And that 1 year is actually considered as 365 and 1/4 days. Now that 1/4 is 5 hours, 48 minutes and 46 seconds to be exactly precise, right? So this time span is known as a tropical year, right? And I've been using this term repeatedly, ecliptic, right? What is the ecliptic? The ecliptic is the path of the Earth around the sun that appears to us from the Earth as the sun's path around the Earth, right? The path of the Earth. Understand this apparent contradiction which is coming up, and we will encounter a lot of contradictions as we move along. The path of the Earth around the sun, because we are on Earth, the path of the Earth around the sun appears as the sun's path around the Earth, so it is known as the ecliptic. Very easy, isn't it? Because we are considering ourselves as the central point of reference, so the Earth's path around the sun will appear to us as the sun's path around the Earth. Yes. So this equator of the Earth, it will run around the middle of the Earth in a east-west direction, and it will divide into the Earth into 2 hemispheres. We know, into the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. Okay, the ecliptic, which is the sun's path, of course, in the apparent east-west direction, it does not lie along the equator, but is obliquely placed to it. Right. So what it means is that half of the sun's path will lie to the north of the equator, and the other half will lie to the south of the equator. Okay, and this was actually confirmed by Aryabhatta. Okay, if you look at the works of Aryabhatta, he has also confirmed what science is telling us now, right? So the sun, it actually, I'll try to find out the quotation of Aryabhatta. Okay, I'll try to find out the quotation of Aryabhatta and I'll try to share it in the group if that is possible. I don't remember the exact quotation, right? So the sun, it happens to cross the equator twice a year, right? And it gives rise to a phenomenon which we call it as the equinox. Okay, so there are 2 equinoxes, right? There are 2 equinoxes. One is known as the vernal equinox, which happens around 21st March when the sun is on its northern course. Okay, and then it is known as the autumnal equinox, which happens around 23rd September when the sun is on its southerly course. So what happens is, when the sun is on its northerly course, it is known as Dakshin Ayana. Okay. And when the sun is on its southerly course, it is known as the I'm really sorry, when the sun is in the northerly course, it is known as the Uttarayana. Okay. And when the sun is on its southerly course, it is known as Dakshinayana. Okay. So what happens is, on these two occasions, the day and night all over the globe are of equal duration, right? So at this time, the sun is vertically above the equator, right? And the declination of the sun at these occasions is 0, as it corresponds to the terrestrial equator, which represents the 0-degree latitude. Okay, like this. Right. So this was something that I was trying to explain. So as you can see, the elliptic in the diagram, the elliptic is inclined to the equator at an angle of 23 degrees 28 minutes. It crosses the equator at 2 points, the equinoxes, that is the vernal equinox and the autumnal equinox, right? So the north and the south poles of the earth, they correspond to the celestial north and south poles. Okay. So what happens after the vernal equinox, the sun, it progressively attains north declination until it reaches a maximum of 23 degrees 28 minutes. So this will happen all across the world on 21st June, and it is known as the summer solstice. Okay. And around this time, the sun is vertically above the Tropic of Cancer, right? So during this time, what happens is, the northern hemisphere, it will experience the longest day and the shortest night. And the reverse will be true for the southern hemisphere. Yes, the reverse will be true for the southern hemisphere. So after autumnal equinox, the sun will pursue a southward direction, and it will attain a maximum south declination at 23 degrees 28 minutes at the time of winter solstice. This, of course, happens around 21st or 22nd December, right? And at this time, the sun is vertically above the Tropic of Capricorn, right? So during this time, what happens? The northern hemisphere, it experiences the shortest day and the longest night, right? And this reverse would be the case for the southern hemisphere. Okay. So this obliquity of the elliptic to the equator will result in the formation of seasons. That means when it is winter in the northern hemisphere, it will be summer in the southern hemisphere, and vice versa, right? So this is something that is well known to all of us, right? So what is the horizon then? The horizon, we know it is the imaginary meeting point between the earth and the sky, right? And this horizon will vary according to the position of the observer on the surface of the earth. For example, if the observer is standing at the North Pole, then the horizon will correspond with the equator, while the southern hemisphere will remain out of view. And for someone who is standing at the equator, the great circle passing through the poles will represent the horizon. The two poles, in this case, the two poles will always lie on the horizon. Okay. And for other intermediate positions, the horizon will too vary accordingly, right? So what happens is, more and more of the southern hemisphere moves out of the horizon as the observer moves northward. And you can observe this phenomenon by standing at any place. You don't have to go to the poles to observe this, right? So as the observer moves northward, more and more of the southern hemisphere moves out of the horizon. And as the observer moves southward, more and more of the northern hemisphere moves out of the horizon. Okay. Then I've mentioned about the zenith and the nadir, right? So what is zenith? For a layman, zenith will be the point of celestial sphere which is directly overhead for the observer, right? So this will be this will be at right angles to the observer's horizon, and the opposite point to the zenith is known as the nadir, right? And the great circle that passes in a north-south direction through the zenith and the nadir, through the north and south poles of the equator, or through the celestial north and south poles, and through the north and south points of the horizon, is known as the meridian. Okay. So this can be a bit too heavy to comprehend for many. Okay. So I'll just take a break, right? I'll just take a break for say 5 minutes, and then we will come back to the science. Okay, we'll come back to the science, and then we can look at the concept of sidereal time, how we are considering sidereal time in Vedic astrology. All right, let's take a break for 5 minutes, and then we can resume here. All right. So now we'll look at something which is known as the rising and the setting of the signs. Okay. So as I've already mentioned here, the ecliptic, it passes through the center of the zodiacal belt, which extends to some 8 to 9 degrees on the northern as well as the southern side. Okay. And the planets, they will remain within the limits of the zodiac, right? So we know that the Earth rotates around its axis once in 24 hours from west to east. Yeah. Okay, so we know that the Earth rotates around its axis once in 24 hours from west to east, right? So as a result, what happens is all the heavenly bodies, they will appear to revolve around the Earth from east to west. Okay, so that again happens in 24 hours, of course, right? And the zodiac, with the nakshatras and with the rashis that are upon the zodiac, it will also appear to revolve around the Earth once in 24 hours. Okay, so what happens is, because of this phenomenon, all the signs and the nakshatras on the zodiac, they appear to successively rise in the eastern horizon and set at the western horizon once in every 24 hours. Okay, so out of these 12 signs, as we have discussed, six out of these 12 signs, they will appear at the eastern horizon during the daytime, and the remaining 6 will appear during the nighttime. Okay, so there are certain things that we must keep in mind here. Okay, so at the time of birth, the sign that is rising at the eastern horizon, that sign is the most important, and it is known as the rising sign or the ascendant or the lagna. Okay, whatever sign was rising at the eastern horizon at the time of your birth, that becomes your ascendant or rising sign or lagna. Okay, so it is the sign where the ecliptic cuts the eastern horizon. Okay, so that ascendant sign or that rising sign or that lagna, it represents the first house in any horoscope. Okay, seventh from the first house is the descendant or the setting sign. Okay, that is, as I said, when a particular sign was rising at the eastern horizon at the time of your birth, the opposite sign was setting in the western horizon. Okay, so this is the descendant or the setting sign, the seventh house of the horoscope. That is, so this is the sign where the ecliptic cuts the western horizon, right? The points where the meridian cuts the ecliptic are the zenith, which is the 10th house. Okay, the zenith, of course, lies above the earth, as I mentioned, and the nadir, which is opposite to the zenith, right? The nadir, which is the 4th house, it will lie below the earth. Okay, so as I said, the zenith, it is also known as the midheaven. Okay, it also known as the midheaven, and it represents the 10th house. So this is the most powerful kendra. The zenith is considered to be the most powerful kendra. Okay, as we will see once we proceed further. Okay, so each sign takes time to rise at the horizon from 0 degrees to 30 degrees. Okay, so all signs, we must note this, that all signs are not of equal duration. So some signs will take longer to completely rise out the horizon as compared to the others. Okay, so based on their rising period, okay, the rising period of any sign is known as the Rashi Manas. Okay, the rising period of each of the 12 Rashis, they are known as the Rashi Manas basically. So signs can be divided into 3 groups. Group A will comprise of Aries, Virgo, Libra, and Aries, Virgo, Libra, and Pisces. Okay, this is Group A, right? Group B, it will be Vrishabha, Simha, Vrishchik, and Kumbha. That means Leo, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. I'm getting it confused here. Scorpio and Aquarius. Group C will comprise of Gemini, Cancer, Sagittarius, and Capricorn. Okay, so these are the 3 groups of signs that can be classified. These are the 3 groups that can be classified according to the rising time of the signs. Okay, so any sign belonging to one particular group, it will take the same time to rise as another belonging to the same group at the equator. Okay, so the 6 signs from Cancer to Sagittarius, they lengthen. Okay, and the remaining 6 signs, they will shorten as one proceeds from the equator to the North Pole. Okay, and Then the signs from Makara to Mithuna, that means the signs from Capricorn to Gemini, they will lengthen while the remaining ones will shorten as one proceeds from the equator to the south pole. Okay. And for any given latitude, the rising period for different signs is fixed. All right. Now, as one moves away from the equator, certain signs lengthen while the others will shorten as far as the rising period is concerned. Okay, that means what it means is that certain signs will remain longer on the horizon than the others. Okay, so there will be 6 signs that will pass between sunrise and sunset, while the remaining 6 signs will do that between sunrise and sunset. Okay, so what it means is that in winter, when the days are shorter, the 6 zodiacal signs that rise successively during the day have a shorter time duration, while the remaining 6 have a longer time duration. So this gives rise to signs of shorter extension and those of longer extension. Someone wants me to explain this rising process again. Okay, so what I'm saying is that each sign, it takes time to rise at the horizon from 0 degrees to 30 degrees. Okay, but since all the signs are not of equal duration, so some signs will take longer to completely rise above the horizon as compared to others. And based on this, based on this rising period, which is also known as the Rashi Manas, signs can be divided into 3 groups. The first group will comprise of Aries. I really get confused here. It will comprise of Aries, Virgo, Libra, and Pisces. Okay. The second group will comprise of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. The third group will comprise of the other signs. That means Gemini, Cancer, Sagittarius, and Capricorn. Okay. So what happens is a sign belonging to one group will take the same time to rise as belonging as another, which belongs to the same group at the equator. Okay. So as one proceeds from the equator to the North Pole, the 6 signs from Cancer to Sagittarius will get lengthened and the remaining 6 will get shortened. And as one proceeds from the equator to the South Pole, the signs from Capricorn to Gemini will get lengthened while the remaining ones will get shortened. Okay. So for any given latitude, the rising period for different signs is fixed, right? So what happens is, certain signs will remain longer on the horizon than others. Okay. And between sunrise and sunset, there will be an elapse of 6 signs. Okay. And between sunset and sunrise, there would be the elapse of the remaining 6 signs, right? So what it means is that when the days are shorter during winter, the 6 signs that rise successively during the day will have a shorter time duration, while the remaining 6 will have a longer time duration. Okay, so this gives rise to sign where the signs are of short ascension, and there will be signs which are of longer ascension. Okay, so it will be based on the hemisphere. Okay, the signs of longer ascension in the northern hemisphere, they will be Cancer, Leo, right? From Cancer to Dhanu, as I said, so it will be Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, and Sagittarius. And for the southern latitudes, these will be the signs of short ascension. Similarly, the signs of short ascension for the northern hemisphere will be from Capricorn to Gemini, as I said. So it will be Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. Okay, so these signs will be the signs of longer ascension in the southern hemisphere. Okay, so as as you near the poles, as you go near the poles, certain zodiacal signs will fail to rise. Okay, certain zodiacal signs will fail to rise, right? So if someone is living at the pole, and if you can if you can check the chart of the people who are living at the poles, then there would be certain extents which will never become there will be certain signs which will never become the ascendant sign for people. Okay. Yes, Swagatama, you can ask your question if you have it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Devashi, I'm very sorry, but then I have to leave because of for something.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. Sorry, huh?
The recordings will be uploaded later.
All right. Thank you so much.
So now we come to something which is the concept of sidereal time. Okay, so we have tropical time, we have sidereal time, but we are more interested in sidereal time because of, because we are practicing Vedic astrology, right? So we know that the Earth rotates around the axis in 24 hours, and that is known as a mean solar day. Okay, so if you consider, or if you take the reference of any fixed star in the zodiac, the Earth will complete one rotation in approximately 23 hours and 56 minutes. Okay, it is to be precise, it is 23 hours 36 minutes and 4.09 seconds. Okay, so one rotation of the Earth in relation to a fixed star, this is known as a sidereal day. Okay, if we express this in another way, a sidereal day is the time interval between two successive transits of a fixed star over the meridians of a place. Okay, so as compared to a main solar day, okay, a sidereal day is around 3 minutes 56 seconds, or maybe roughly 4 minutes shorter. Okay, so a sidereal day will comprise of 24 sidereal hours. Okay, and time reckoned according to this methodology is known as sidereal time. Now, since this sidereal time considers the angular rotation of the Earth in relation to the fixed stars of the zodiac, the Earth will attain the same position with reference to the zodiac every day at the same sidereal time. Okay, so in other words, what happens is, for any location for the same sidereal time, the disposition of the signs of the zodiac, right, including the rising sign, the setting sign, the 10th house, the 4th house, it will be the same. So that is the reason why having the correct birth time is very, very essential if you want to draw a proper birth chart. Okay, now as I said, the sidereal day is a bit shorter than the mean solar day by 4 minutes, right? Why does that happen? That happens because by the time the Earth rotates by the time the Earth completes one rotation with reference to a fixed star, that means in one sidereal day, the sun has moved approximately 1 degree further along the zodiac, because I had told you in the beginning, nothing is fixed. Like the Earth, the sun is also moving. Okay, like the Earth, the sun is also moving. So by the time the Earth rotates one with reference, by the Earth completes one rotation around the sun will have moved approximately 1 degree further along the zodiac. And for the Earth, in order to achieve the same position with reference to the sun, it has to rotate an extra 1 degrees, thereby consuming approximately 4 additional minutes each day. This is very, very interesting, isn't it? Now we know that the Earth revolves around the sun once in 365 days and 365 and 1/4 days. Now that 1/4 is 5 hours, 48 minutes and 46 seconds, right? So considered from the Earth, the sun, it appears to complete one round of ecliptic during this period. And this is something which is known as a tropical year, right? So in the span of a tropical year, the Earth regains its original angular position with the sun. It is also called a year of seasons because on this Earth-Sun cycle depends the occurrence and timing of seasons, right? So if we consider the revolution of the sun around the Earth from one vernal equinox, okay, to the next vernal equinox, it takes one tropical year to do so, right? So vernal equinox is, it's from 21 March, when the day and night all over the globe are equal. So if you consider the revolution of the sun around the Earth from one vernal equinox to the next vernal equinox, it will take around one tropical year to do so. But at the end of one tropical year from one vernal equinox to the next, if we consider the position of the Earth with reference to a fixed star of the zodiac, the Earth appears to lie some 50.26 seconds to, it appears to lie around 50.26, if I remember clearly. The Earth will lie to some 50.26 seconds of celestial longitude to the west of its original position. Okay, so what happens is, in order for the Earth to attain the same position with respect to a fixed star after one revolution, it takes us time span of 365 days, 6 hours, 9 minutes, and some 9.5 seconds. Okay, so this duration of time is known as a sidereal year. So the sidereal year is just over 20 minutes longer than the tropical year, but the time difference is equivalent to, as I said, it is equivalent to around 50.26 seconds of celestial longitude. So what happens is that each year, this vernal equinox will fall short by 50.26 seconds along the zodiac, reckoned along the fixed stars, right? So this continuous receding of the vernal equinox along the zodiac is known as the precession of equinoxes, right? So what is the cause of this precession? The cause is that the earth rotates around its axis like a spinning top. It is wobbling, right? It is wobbling. It is not rotating uniformly. It is wobbling. So in doing so, the North Pole, okay, that is, and the celestial pole, it will describe a circle of around 47 degrees around the pole of the ecliptic. So what it means is that the plane of the equator intersects the plane of the ecliptic at a constantly shifting point. So this point, which is the first point of Aries or the vernal equinox, it goes on receding westward at a rate of approximately 50.2 seconds of arc each year. So this is known as the precession of the equinox. So the result of this precession is a slow increase in the right ascensions of almost all the fixed stars in the zodiac. Okay, so this precession will take around 25,800 years to complete one circle. Okay, so Vedic astrology considers this precession as of paramount importance. Why? Because, look at this, because of this, this is the Earth's axis now, right? So this axis now points towards the Polaris, and in an approximately 13,000 years, it would have moved to a point towards Vega. Okay, so this precision is very, very important, and to appreciate this precision, we we come to we just a minute. Yeah, to appreciate this precision, we actually come to a concept which is known as the ayanamsha. Okay, it is known as the ayanamsha. So before understanding what the ayanamsha is, okay, we'll just look at the fixed and the movable zodiacs. Okay, so the sidereal zodiac, okay, it considers the nakshatras as its basis. Okay, so the first degree begins as the first degree of Mesha from a particular point in the Revati nakshatra. So there is another zodiac which is located which is considered from the vernal point. Okay, so in that zodiac, the first point of Aries will begin from the vernal equinox. This is known as the tropical zodiac. Okay, so we are not considering the tropical zodiac. Vedic astrology considers the sidereal zodiac, which is the fixed zodiac. Tropical zodiac is movable. Okay, so as we see this tropical zodiac, it continues to recede westward along the stars which characterize the fixed zodiac. So this brings us to this concept of ayanamsha. Okay, so because of the precession of equinoxes at a rate of around 50.26 seconds per year, the distance between the vernal equinox and the first point of Mesha or Aries on the fixed zodiac has been progressively increased. Okay, it is progressively increasing, right? So this distance at any epoch is called the ayanamsha. Okay, so this ayanamsha is the difference between the fixed zodiac and the movable zodiac. Okay, and the system that considers the fixed zodiac is the Niryana system. Okay, it is Niryana. The word Niryana, it means without ayana. Okay, the word Niryana is known as without ayana. Okay, and the system that considers the movable zodiac is known as the Sayana system, which means with the ayana. Okay, so the Niryana values of planetary longitudes can be obtained by subtracting the ayanamsha for a given time from the Sayana longitudes. To be very simple, Vedic astrology will consider the Niryana system, while the Western astrology it will consider the Sayana system. Okay, so the Niryana and the Sayana zodiacs, they coincided in the year 285, Anno Domini, when the ayanamsha was at 0. Okay, as the rate of precession of equinoxes, at the rate of precession of equinoxes, this ayanamsha on the 1st of January 1995 will it was around 23 degrees something seconds, which I don't remember. Okay, and precision completes the precision completes one round in approximately, as I said, in 26,000 years, so that the fixed and movable zodiacs coincide regularly after this time span. Okay, so the Ayanamsha reckoned on the basis of considering the year 285 AD as the year when the when the Sayana and the Niryana zodiacs coincided. This is known as the Chitra Paksha Ayanamsha. Chitra Paksha means opposite to Chitra Nakshatra. Okay, it was designed by Lahiri, and this is the standard Ayanamsha that you will use for all your astrological calculations. Okay, it is Lahiri Chitra Paksha. There are other ayanas as well. Okay, there are other ayanas as well. So, and if you want to make your chart according to the Western system, that means according to the Sayana system, what you will do is that you will go to your Ayanamsha settings on the software and put the setting and put the Ayana as Sayana. Okay, we'll put the we'll put the Ayanamsha as Sayana Ayanamsha. That will give you the chart according to your Western astrology. Okay. Now to understand this this Ayanamsha in a very this is from the geographical point of view, but if you want to understand Ayanamsha from a from a very simple perspective, for example, say in a train you're traveling from say Mumbai to Kolkata. You're traveling from Mumbai to Kolkata in train. So from Mumbai to Kolkata, the distance is fixed. Say the distance is around 300 kilometers or maybe 500 kilometers, whatever it is. So from Mumbai to Kolkata, the distance moved by the train is fixed, right? But as the passenger, okay, you would have traveled much more than the fixed distance. Suppose the distance from Mumbai to Kolkata, the fixed distance from Mumbai to Kolkata is say 500 kilometers. So, if you look at from the Sayana point of view, okay, if you look from the Sayana point of view, Ayanamsha, Sayana and Niryana. Okay, Ayanamsha is the difference between the Sayana and the Niryana zodiacs. Okay, Ayanamsha. Okay, Ayanamsha. Ayanamsha. That is correct. Okay, that is correct. So as I said, suppose the fixed distance between Mumbai to Kolkata is say 500 kilometers. Now, as a passenger, if you are considering your journey from the Sayana point of view, you would say that that the distance is 500 kilometers. But if you are considering the Niryana point of view, you will say that apart from the 500 kilometers, you would also have traveled an additional distance. For example, from your compartment, you would have traveled to the bathroom. From your compartment, maybe you would have got down at a particular station for some refreshments. Or maybe suppose the train stopped at a particular station, you went out to get some fresh air. So all those distances will also be considered under the Niryana system. So this is the basis of the Ayanamsha, just for the for the simple understanding of it. Okay. So as I said, the Vedic astronomers, they had a very elaborate method of reckoning time. Okay, that genius was actually a result of years of sadhana. Okay, and because they combined that genius with the Vedic religion, so it appealed to the intellectual as well as to the devoted. Okay, and there are several methods of reckoning time in the ancient days. So these are the methods that were followed in the ancient time. Okay, so it is 1 asu or prana. These are 4 sidereal seconds. 6 asus is 1 sidereal pal or vigati or vinadi. 60 pal is 1 khati. 60 khati is 1 day. 30 days is 1 month. 12 months is 1 year. Okay, so 43 lakhs 20,000 years is 1 yuga. 72 yugas is 1 manu. 14 manus is 1 kalpa or 1008 yugas. 2 kalpas is a day or night of Brahma. 30 day nights of Brahma equals 1 month of Brahma. Okay, so 12 months of Brahma is equal to 1 year of Brahma. 100 years of Brahma equal to life of Brahm or 1 Mahakalpa. So I've discussed this method in details in the Panchanga course. Okay, so if anyone is interested in knowing it, then maybe you can ping me. I'll tell you how to access that course. Okay, and in addition to these methods which I've mentioned here, there are certain other methods that are used for the astrological reckoning of time. Okay, so sidereal day is the time interval between one star rise to the next. Civil day is the time interval between one sunrise to the next. Lunar month is the time from between one new moon to the next. Solar month is the interval between the entry of sun from one sign to the other. This is of course known as Sankranti. Solar year is the period of one solar revolution. Jupiterian or Brahaspatya year is the period of Jupiter's motion through a sign, which is approximately equal to 1 year. Okay. Then we also have certain circular divisions of time. Okay, so these are the measures of angles that have been described by the Vedic astronomers. So you can just go through it for your, for your own knowledge. Okay. So 60 pratatparas is one tatpara, 60 tatpara is one vilipta. Vilipta is also known as vikal or second. 60 vilipta equals to 1 lipta. 60 lipta is 1 lava or bhaga or amsha or degree. So this will be more clear once we start doing the divisional charts. Okay, so 30 lava is 1 sign or rashi, and 12 rashi is 1 celestial circle or revolution, which is of course 360 degrees. Okay, 30 into 12 is 360 degrees. So now there are certain important factors. Okay, certain important factors while considering the revolution of the planets. Okay, so we know that the planets revolve around the sun in different velocities in elliptical orbits. Okay, and they also appear to revolve around the earth in elliptical orbits. So what Parashara says is that although the grahas, they proceed towards the east, they appear as if they are moving in the westward direction under the influence of a certain force. Okay, this is what Parashara says to his disciple Maitra in the Brahat Parashara Hora Shastra. Okay, so as I said, there are certain factors which are very, very important, right? So number one is the rotation of the earth from west to east direction. Okay, so what this rotational movement does is that it causes days and nights. Okay, and it makes the planets appear to be moving from west to east to west across the earth. Okay, then the daily revolution of the zodiac from east to west. So this rotation movement of the earth, it makes the whole zodiac appear as if it is making one daily revolution around the earth. So notice the use of the word appears very frequently. Okay, these are all apparent motions that we are studying, right? So in one day-night duration, all the signs of the zodiac and all the nakshatras, of course, they will rise successively in the east and they will set in the west. Okay, so the movement of planets from west to east, right? Although the daily rotation of the earth makes the sun and other planets appear to be moving from east to west, in effect they move from west to east along the zodiac. Okay, so a planet in Mesha, a planet in Aries will actually move to Vrishabha and then to Mithuna. That means from Aries we come to Taurus, we come to Mithun. Okay, we come to Gemini and so on. Okay, so the order of the planets has been described by Aryabhatta. So what Aryabhatta says is that besides the nakshatras, there is Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, and the moon, one below the other, and beneath them all lies the earth. Okay, so Aryabhatta also uses the word hora. Okay, Aryabhatta uses the word hora. He says that if the 7 planets, okay, I'm just saying the 7 planets that are listed by Aryabhatta, this is different from the weekday order. It is Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, and Moon. Again, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, and the Moon. Okay, so if these planets starting from Saturn, they are arranged in the order of increasing velocity, right? So they will also behave as the lords of successive horas. Okay, so the planets occurring fourth in order of increasing velocity are the lords of the successive days, which are reckoned from sunrise. So in simple terms, Sunday will always begin with Surya hora. Okay, Monday will always begin with Chandra hora. Wednesday will always begin with Mercury hora. Saturday will always begin with Saturn hora. Okay, and there are 24 horas in a day, so each hora is approximately equivalent to 1 hour. Okay, the first hora starting from sunrise belongs to the lord of the day itself, and subsequent horas will follow in that order which I mentioned. Again, this is very, very important to memorize: Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, Moon. So for example, for Monday will start with moon hora. The first hour of Monday will be moon. Then it will belong to Saturn. Then it will belong to Jupiter. Then it will belong to Mars. Then it will belong to Sun, and so on. Okay, so this is how you can use horas, right? Horas have a lot of practical uses. I'll come to the uses of horas in a YouTube video, right? I'll share that video in the group, and then maybe you can have a look at it, right? So as I said, from Saturn, the fourth in order is the Sun. Okay, so the Sun is the lord of the day following the day of Saturn. Okay, that means Sunday follows Saturday. Again, from Sun, the fourth in the order is Moon, right? So Sunday will follow, will be followed by the day of Monday, which is of course ruled by the Moon, right? So then there are the inner planets and the outer planets. Okay, so the planets that have their orbits between the Sun and the Earth, they are known as the inner planets, precisely Venus and Mercury. And the planets, these planets, they are also known as the inferior planets because they cannot go far away from the Sun. Okay, Mercury, if you look at the astronomical conditions, Mercury can move to a maximum of 27 degrees from the Sun, and Venus can move to a maximum of 47 degrees from the Sun. And once they start moving beyond 27 degrees, suppose Mercury starts moving beyond 27 degrees, then it appears that the Sun calls them back and Mercury starts retrograding. Venus moves beyond 47 degrees. Venus will start retrograding once it tries to move beyond 47 degrees. Okay, so Mercury and Venus, they will always be placed very closer to the Sun. And the deeper philosophical implications is that, Sun is the one who is actually controlling Mercury and Venus. Okay, so you may have a very good Mercury in the horoscope, you may have a very good Venus in the horoscope, but if your Sun is weak, then Mercury and Venus will not give you good results. Okay, that is the reason the ancient people, the ancients of India, they always stressed a lot on the worship of the Sun. Okay, Sun is, if you look at it categorically, now we are in the Puranic era where the gods which are meant, the Vedic gods, don't have any kind of relevance. We don't worship, we don't worship Indra, we don't worship the Vasus, we don't worship Soma, right? We worship Rama, we worship Krishna. So these characters, they have appeared in the Puranas. They are not mentioned in the Vedas. Yeah, I'll repeat it. Yeah, so they are not mentioned in the Vedas, right? These these incarnations of the divine, like Parshurama, right, like Rama, like Krishna, they are not mentioned in the Vedas. They are mentioned in the Puranas, and we are actually into worship of these Puranic deities. But if you look at the Sun, Surya is a Vedic god. Surya is also mentioned successively in the other Puranas as well. So Surya has constantly maintained his importance as a Vedic god. Okay, and the outer planets, which lie outside the orbit of the Earth, they are the superior planets, the planets of Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Okay, so Leah has asked for the repeating the order of the horas. So it is Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, Moon. Again, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, and Moon. Okay, so this is the order. So as I said, this describes the phenomenon of retrogression. Okay, so planets, we know that they move along the zodiac from west to east around the Sun. But however, when seen from the Earth, sometimes their motion appears to be occurring in a reverse direction against the background of the stars. Okay, sometimes, now the planet will not move in reverse. Okay, but when seen from the Earth, the motion may appear to be occurring in a reverse direction. So this apparent motion in the reverse direction is known as retrogression of planets, and it has a lot of significance in predictive astrology. Okay, so we'll not go deeper into retrograde planets. Later on, we will have a webinar on retrogression and combustion, but that is for a much later period. Okay, so this movement of planets in the reverse direction is known as retrogression of planets, and it has a lot of significance in predictive astrology. Okay. If a planet is retrograde, it is read very, very differently in the chart. So two planets are always retrograde. Rahu and Ketu are always retrograde. Okay. Surya and Chandra, they are never retrograde. Okay. Other planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, they go retrograde. They undergo retrograde motions periodically. Okay. So Rahu and Ketu always retrograde. Surya and Chandra never retrograde. right? And then there is another phenomenon when the planet, which is coming too close to the sun, it becomes invisible. Such a planet is known as combust, right? And what classical astrology tells us that a combust planet will lose its strength and it will tend to behave in a very adverse manner. Okay, it will behave in a very adverse manner. In my experience, if a planet becomes combust, the houses that are owned by the planet, that they stop giving results, or in other words, they will give results only up to the age of 55. Okay, we'll again, as I said, we'll again deal with combustion and attribution in a separate webinar. Okay, now there are certain degrees as to when planets become combust. For example, Venus becomes combust within 9 degrees. Okay, then Jupiter becomes combust within 11 degrees, Mercury becomes combust within 13 degrees, Saturn becomes combust within 15 degrees, and Mars becomes combust within within 17 degrees. Okay, Aryabhatta also says that even moon becomes combust, but I personally don't believe that the moon can become combust. But still, some softwares will show you that if the moon is within 12 degrees of the sun, it becomes combust. That will happen only during birth during Amavasya. Okay, so these are the limits, as I said. For example, yeah, Venus is 9 degrees. Okay, Venus is within 9 degrees of the sun. Saturn is Jupiter is 11 degrees. Mercury is 13 degrees. Saturn is 15 degrees, and Mars is 17 degrees. Okay, now these planets, okay, they represent different concentrations of energy. Okay, and they will influence the terrestrial phenomenon by their disposition in the heavens. Okay, so this is something that I have mentioned in the last class as well. There are certain combinations which repeat after every 30 years, or say after every 35 years, and the same events which happened during a previous time will also tend to repeat itself. Okay, so there are ways of looking at the planets from different perspectives. Okay, so do Rahu and Ketu get combust? No, they don't get combust. Okay, because Rahu and Ketu are not real planets, they are just astronomical points. Okay, so they don't get combusted. All right, so Parashara, he mentions specifically about the Vishnu avatars of the planets. Maybe we can have a webinar on the significations of the Vishnu, of what each avatar means. Right, later on we'll have a webinar on each avatar of the planets. Right, so Surya, it represents Rama, Moon represents Krishna. Okay, Mars represents Narasimha, Mercury represents Buddha. So this Buddha is not the Buddha that we that we associate with Buddhism. Buddha means an enlightened being someone who has conquered his buddhi. Okay, so Buddha is not it is not the Buddha of Buddhism. Okay, it is not Shakyamuni of Buddhism. It is Buddha is someone who has conquered his buddhi. Okay, Jupiter represents Vamana, right? Vamana avatara. Venus represents Parshurama. Saturn represents Kurma. Okay, Rahu represents Varaha or Sukar. Ketu represents Meena or Matsya. Okay, so even the Bhagavad Gita, it mentions very explicitly that to safeguard the interests of the righteous and to punish the evildoers, God will incarnate, and during those incarnations, the planets will also undertake their benevolent and punitive actions. Okay, so what this means is that the planets will behave as benefics and malefics in a horoscope. All right, and all planets, they are the real they are the real bringers or the harbingers of karma. Okay, and the planets in the horoscope, they will ensure that we reap the results of all the karmas that we that we have committed in our previous lives. Okay, the sun represents Rama, the moon represents Krishna, Mars represents Narasimha, Mercury represents Buddha, Jupiter represents Vamana, Venus represents Parshurama, Saturn represents Kurma, Rahu represents Varaha or Sukar, Ketu represents Meena or Matsya. Okay, so that's it. That's it for today. It was a kind of a heavy material that we discussed. Okay, nevertheless, it was a heavy material that we discussed. Just go through this recording once it gets uploaded. I'll try to ensure it gets uploaded by tomorrow or the day after. And yes, I am open to your questions.
So Deepanshu Ji, I'll ask. Thank you so much. Just because some of the names are hard for me to spell. You said that Venus is Parashurama.
Parshurama, it's Parshurama, it's Parshurama.
Parashurama, Jupiter Vamana, Saturn
Kurma, Kurma.
Kurma, Mars
Narasimha, yes, it is Narasimha.
Simha. Okay. You said Mercury is Buddha.
Right.
Okay. Ketu is Sukara.
Ketu is Matsya or Meena.
Meena or Matsya. And I missed the last three.
Rahu is Varaha. Rahu is Varaha or Sukar.
Varaha or Sukar.
Sukar, yes, it is Sukar.
Mhm.
So that's it. Sun is Rama, Moon is Krishna, Mars is Narasimha. Nara means human and Simha means lion. So half man, half lion.
Okay, great.
Venus is Parashurama. Parashu means the axe. Okay, and Rama means the avatar. Okay,
So these are the avatars.
These are the avatars. Yes, these are the avatars of Vishnu. Okay. And these 9 planets correspond to the 9 avatars of Vishnu. Vishnu is supposed to take the 10 avatars, which is the Dasha avatar. So the last avatar will correspond to the rising sign, which is the Lagna, because the Lagna will also behave as an independent entity in the chart.
Okay. Okay. And then could you go over so you were talking about the 3 groups of signs.
Mm-hmm.
Take the same time to rise, right? So there's Aries, Virgo, and Libra, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius in the second, and then Gemini, Cancer, Sagittarius, and Capricorn in the third. But I need you to repeat. So Virgo, Libra, Leo, Scorpio.
Yeah, group A is Aries. You can just write the numbers, then it'll be clear. Group A is Aries.
No, I got it. I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. My question is, there's 2 different ascension groups that you were speaking of.
There
Yeah.
are 3 different groups.
Huh?
3 different groups.
No, but no. Then
Yeah. I'm saying that for for any
went on
given
to
latitude.
say in the I got the 3 groups. You went on to say in the summer and in the winter.
Yes.
That part, could you please go to? Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that for any given latitude, okay, the rising period for different signs will be fixed. Okay, so as one will move away from the equator, the rising time of some signs will lengthen and others will shorten. Okay, so what happens is, during winter the days become short, and the signs that rise during the day, they will have a shorter time duration, while the others will have a longer time duration.
Correct.
Okay, so for the northern hemisphere, you just remember this technically. For the northern hemisphere, the signs of long accession will be Karka, that means Cancer, Leo, Virgo. Then from Cancer to Sagittarius, those will be the signs of longer accession in the northern hemisphere. And for the southern hemisphere, these signs will have a shorter ascension. And the list will get reversed, because in the northern hemisphere, the signs of shorter ascension will be from Capricorn to Mithuna, and these signs will become the signs of longer ascension for the southern hemisphere, for the southern latitudes.
So when in that example that you just said, for the northern hemisphere from Cancer to Sagittarius, the signs will have a longer ascension. That's in the winter. You're using that example?
Yeah.
Okay, and so then, just so I could say it out loud, then in the southern hemisphere, it'll be the opposite, meaning that these signs will have a longer ascension, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And then in the summer, it will change.
Yeah, it will change.
So in the summer, what is it? In the summer, then in the summer,
the signs of longer ascension in the northern hemisphere will become the signs of shorter ascension then.
Right. Okay, got it. Okay, G, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
She is asking for Gemini and Virgo Lagna. Both can be combust. I don't think it can be combust in most cases. Okay. So does it mean that such people will lose significance if Lagna and 4th or 10th house always? See, Lagna combust, it can be a problem. Okay, it can be a problem. It can be a problem with your intelligence because Lagna is not your body. The moon is your body. Okay, Lagna is your discretion power. So these people can have problems with, with discrimination between the right and wrong, right? And regarding the 4th house or the 10th house, if a planet, if the 4th lord or the 10th lord is combust, the planet loses its quality. That means, it will give results only after the age of 55. Okay, we'll come to that predictive part of it. I'm just giving out, just giving out the outline of combustion. Yes, Anuradha ji, you've raised your hand.
Sir, I have 2 questions just to understand. You said the last pad of Uttarsadha and first pad of Shravana. These two
Right.
are become the Abhijit Nakshatra.
No, the Abhijit Nakshatra will lie after the last pada of Uttarashada and it will lie before the first pada of Shravana.
Okay, so it's basically sandwiched in between these 2 padas, right?
Right.
So, sir, in that case, the padas of in that case, all the other nakshatras will become shorter. Like the pada length of each nakshatra will become shorter, isn't it?
Yeah, it will become shorter. It will become shorter in a way. See, as I said, it is we reckon the 28 scheme of nakshatras very differently. Okay, so you have to make your predictions by considering the same average length. It is not that if we consider the 28 nakshatra scheme, then the nakshatras will become shorter, because if the nakshatra becomes shorter, then all planets will also change their positions, isn't it? So it is not possible that that it will become shorter physically, but what happens is that there is a mental tweak in the calculation where you consider, where we consider that, okay, we are looking at a 28 nakshatra scheme, and the rules of interpretation will also vary in this scheme. Okay, so this is for an advanced class of Vedic astrology. Maybe when we reach the advanced levels, then we can discuss this in more detail.
Okay, sir. So this is one thing I had from this class, and from the last class you had mentioned, just give me a second, let me pull it out. You said that there were the branches of astrology. You said there were Parashar, Jaimini, Krishnamurti, Lal Kitab. These 4 you had mentioned. So can you just tell what is Nadi astrology, what is Tajik astrology, because these also keep coming up.
Nadi astrology is one branch which actually considers your, it corresponds to the nadis in the body. Okay, so just like Vedic astrology, we have the different houses, right? One house becomes the first house, then the other houses follow. So in Nadi astrology, we just have the chart. Okay, we don't have houses, we just have the chart, and we make predictions based on that chart. So the interpretations become very, very different, and there are different nadis also. Like there is the Chandrakala nadi, there is the Chitra nadi, and things like that. Okay,
so it's a different system altogether.
It is a different system altogether. The rules become very, very different. Okay, I had been very specific in mentioning that. Yeah, one disservice that people are doing in astrology is that they are mixing up all the things together. Okay, but they are not to be mixed. The rules become very, very different. And Nadi astrology is, in my opinion, it is very, very good in predicting the past. It can predict your past very accurately. Okay, but for a Nadi astrologer to predict your future accurately, the astrologer needs to have some special skills. Okay, so, and the other thing is that there is only one genuine Nadi astrologer left in India. Okay, Srinivasanji, he is from Tamil Nadu. All the other Nadi astrologers, they are no longer here. So there is another Nadi astrologer. I had him on my YouTube channel, Sri Uma Shankaranji. So maybe you can have his details from there in that video where he had discussed marriage from the perspective of Nadi astrology. So there is one Nadi. He is actually really, really good in my opinion. And the Tajik astrology, these are methods that came from Tajikistan when the invasions took place. So they are.
So it's not Vedic in origin.
It is not Vedic in origin. It is these methods are from Tajikistan. Okay, these astrologers they did study, they did study our systems when the invasions took place at the time of Kutubuddin Aibak, and those systems went to Tajikistan and they got modified in their own ways. But it is good for it is good for calculating muhurta. It is good for predicting the timing of events. Okay, Tajik astrology is very good for timing of events. It's not that it does not work, but it is
Do they have like a Vedic astrology base? Like, or it's just totally different, like you have to study it all differently.
You have to know the principles of Vedic astrology, of course, but you cannot study Tajik astrology independently as a system. It has no independent existence. Vedic astrology principles will be applied, but then the rules of interpretation become very, very different. Okay, they're just like Lal Kitab. You need to have knowledge of a bit of beginner's knowledge about Vedic astrology, but the rules of interpretation become very, very different. Okay, so Vedic astrology is purely Parashara. Okay, it's purely Parashara. Jaimini is an extension of Parashara. Okay, it's just like you are doing your schooling and then you are going for your masters, and Gemini is like that masters. Okay, but Gemini can be used as an independent system as well. Okay, the unfortunate thing is that people are combining results of Vedic astrology combining the results of Parashara along with Lal Kitab. That is something that should not be done. Most astrologers are doing it. Okay, even if you look at YouTube videos of some renowned Lal Kitab astrologers, they will predict according to Lal Kitab and they will give remedies according to Vedic, or rather they will predict according to Vedic and they will give remedies according to Lal Kitab. That is something which is not done basically. Okay, it should not be done because Lal Kitab has its own set of rules and regulations, which is known as the grammar of Lal Kitab. Okay, so I had a renowned Lal Kitab astrologer, Vinay Goelji on my channel. So he had explained a few concepts regarding Lal Kitab, but that is for a different, for Lal Kitab, you need to be really, really skilled in that application of knowledge. Okay, otherwise predictions will start go pretty wrong. Okay, for example, if I'll just give you an example. Suppose someone has a conjunction of Jupiter and Mars. Okay, someone has a combination of Jupiter and Mars in the chart, and Lal Kitab says that you must worship Devi. Okay, Lal Kitab gives you a result. You must worship Devi. Now, why is that so? Because that's a very literal thing to say. You must worship Devi if you have a combination of Jupiter and Mars. But why is that being said? Because if you look at the number of Jupiter in the weekday system, okay, so you look at Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury, and Jupiter. So Jupiter is given 5, isn't it? And then you look at Mangal. Okay, so Sun, Moon, Mars, Mangal is 3 according to the weekday system. So 5 plus 3 is 8. 8 is the number of Rahu, and the controller of Rahu is the Devi. So Lal Kitab explicitly mentions that if you have a combination of of Jupiter and Mars in the chart, then you must worship Devi. So this is the reason. You must understand the reason why Lal Kitab is saying that. But people have started taking Lal Kitab literally. It is not meant to be taken literally as such.
Anyway, sir, that is too advanced. Thank you.
Yeah.
Today was heavy duty. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Deepanshu Ji, I would like to ask again. No one has another question. Okay.
Yeah.
Shall I go?
Yeah, please.
So yeah, it
Thank
was like a race today. We're all running behind you, trying to catch up. You are so knowledgeable. So just not to waste really the great information you gave us, to make sure I got it. So you said that an Earth sidereal day is 23 degrees, 56 minutes and 9 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay. So my question is, you talked I know the difference between the sidereal zodiac, you said, is 20 minutes longer than the tropical year.
Yes.
Okay. So then you talked about how that happens because this rotation is not exactly 24 hours. And the wobble of the Earth's axis. So it has to do with the timing and the wobbling of the Earth's axis?
Yes.
So it's a combination.
It's a combination.
Okay, so you're saying that this rotation that isn't exactly 24 hours makes, what is the effect then, that it becomes what you talked about, a distance, that something is receding?
Yeah, what I'm saying is, this duration, which is the sidereal year, it is about, as I said, it is about 20 minutes longer than the tropical year. Okay, and this time difference is equivalent to around 50.26 seconds. Okay, so each year this vernal equinox, it will fall short by 50.26 seconds along the zodiac, right? So this is a continuous process of receding of the vernal equinox along the zodiac that happens. Okay, so what happens is that, we know that the earth rotates around its axis like a spinning top. It's not a perfect spin, it's a wobble. Okay, so while doing that wobble, the north pole of the earth, it will describe a circle of, say, around 47 degrees around the pole of the ecliptic. That means, that will mean that that the plane of the equator will intersect the plane of the ecliptic at a constantly shifting point. Okay, so this shifting point, it goes on receding westward approximately at the rate of 50.26 seconds of arc each year. Okay, so this is the precision. Okay, so as a result, what happens? There is a slow increase in the right ascension of almost all the fixed stars, right? And it will take around, as I said, it will take around 26,000 years to complete one cycle. Okay, so this precision is appreciated in the form of iron amsha. All right, you just go through the video once again. That will give you a much clearer understanding of it.
Yeah. And then thank you for that. No, I got it. Yeah. Like I said before, you need to talk slowly so I can learn quickly. Yeah.
Actually, it was a lot of things to cover, so never mind.
Yeah, a lot, but not too much. Just maybe above our pay grade.
No, you will catch up. I'll ensure that the recording is uploaded either tomorrow or maybe the next day.
Okay, and then can you just to speak about, go over the declination again and what that is? It's an angle that corresponds to the terrestrial. I don't know. I didn't get that. Declination.
You are saying about the declination and the inclination. That was. Oh yeah. So that declination of a planet is the angle that is made by the planet and the celestial equator at the Earth. Okay, so you just keep this in mind, that the declination will correspond exactly with the terrestrial latitude. Okay,
So
the declination
is an angle made by the planet
and the celestial equator.
Okay.
Of
the Earth. Okay.
Yeah, of the Earth, right? So just like the latitudes and the longitudes, they help to locate a place on the surface of the terrestrial sphere.
Yeah.
So the extensions in the form of parallels of declination and the meridians of right ascension, they will help to locate heavenly bodies on the celestial sphere. So this declination will correspond exactly with the terrestrial latitude. You just remember that thing. Okay, and
terrestrial latitude.
Yeah, it will correspond exactly with the terrestrial latitude.
Okay.
And this right ascension is the angular distance. The right ascension of a planet, of any planet, is the angular distance which is measured eastwards along the celestial equator. Okay, from the vernal equinox. All right, from the vernal equinox to
again.
Yeah, that right ascension. It is the angular distance. The right ascension of a planet, that is. It is the angular distance which is measured eastwards along the celestial equator from the vernal equinox. Okay, from the vernal equinox to a point where a perpendicular drawn through the given planet falls on the celestial equator.
Okay, the right ascension is an angle or distance measured eastward along the celestial equator.
Yeah, from the vernal equinox. From the vernal equinox to a point where a perpendicular drawn from the given planet will fall on the celestial equator. There is a nice YouTube channel that actually shows these things in a very graphical way. I'll just, maybe if I come across it, I'll share it in the group. Maybe you can have a look at it. That will make it very, very clear.
Okay, so I got it. The right ascension is an angular distance measured eastwards along the celestial equator from the vernal equinox to a point where a perpendicular
planet perpendicular drawn through the planet will fall on the celestial equator.
What's after perpendicular?
drawn through the given planet
Okay.
will fall
Okay.
on the celestial equator.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all about visualizing the thing, isn't it? We have lost touch with our visualization because of our, of our smartphones and smart devices.
Very bad. Very bad. Yes. It's going to be the death of us. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. All right then. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you with a session midweek, either on Ashtak Varga or on the Vishnu avatars of the planets. We'll try to understand the Vishnu avatars, the significance, and the mantras that are related to the Vishnu avatars. Or if time permits, I'll just make a study on Ashtak Varga and explain it to you in the midweek of this week. All right. All right then. Thank you, everyone. Go through the recordings once again, and hopefully I'll see all of you next Sunday.
Devesharji, is there a way we could get the slides?
I'll send it in the group. I'll send it across in the group.
Thank you. That is so generous of you. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right. Namaste, everyone. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you again next week. Om Guru Venkat.